If you sell an asset, be it stocks, be it a piece of property, a second piece of property that you own, for example, and you make more than $250,000 in profits, as an individual, the amount of money that you're taxed on will go to 2/3 from half if the budget passes. But if you're a corporation or a trust, it doesn't matter what that threshold is, no matter what that inclusion rate is going to change for you. And that's where the concern from doctors, as voiced today, comes into play, because so many of them, of course, have incorporated themselves.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. In regards to today's video, we're going to be looking at some communist views from our dictator Justin Trudeau in regards to the federal budget and the capital gains tax. Now, we've talked a little bit about that in regards to people who own secondary properties, investment properties, cottages, who will most likely be trying to unload these before June so they don't get hit with the new tax. But we haven't touched upon how doctors get hit regardless, because they are incorporated or created a corporation to help them save up for their retirement. Now, this was a practice that was implemented 15 to 20 years ago, and now it seems like these guys are getting punished for following the rules that were laid out for them in regards to their retirement.
So you heard the Prime Minister there. He's pretty unequivocal about the reason why they brought this in. They view it as a question of fairness, taking a little bit more from the quote unquote wealthy and making sure younger generations kind of get their fair share. How do you respond to that?
Well, I would certainly say that doesn't feel very fair to me as a family physician working in Canada. I definitely don't consider myself an ultra wealthy person, but as I look across the country at the professional corporations that were set up, and it varies from province to province, but 15 to 20 years ago, we were encouraged to set up professional corporations as a saving vehicle for our retirement and to run our practices in lieu of increased fees at the time. So here we are now, 15 to 20 years down the line, being told that those legitimate business practices, those established savings vehicles, are going to be taxed at a much higher rate without that threshold afforded to individuals.
Now, as you heard from Vashi at the beginning of that clip there, she mentions Trudeau, and that's because today he was in Saskatoon addressing the federal budget, education, Indigenous communities, and when the press had a chance to ask him questions, this was the first one talking about former finance ministers not agreeing with this whole situation on the capital gains.
What do you have to say to your own former finance minister, Bill Morneau, who was and remains vocally opposed to the changes to the capital gains inclusion rate?
This budget is focused on fairness. Reality is, for far too many young people, for far too many millennial families or Gen Zers, the dream of home ownership is getting further and further away every year, no matter how hard they work, no matter the side hustles they pull together. Rent is taking up a huger and huger part of their monthly budget. And the idea of setting aside to be able to save up for a down payment or eventually being able to get a mortgage seems further and further out of reach. That's why with this budget, we're bringing back fairness in the system for young people. And we're doing it by asking people who are the absolute wealthiest in this country to contribute a little bit more. I understand for some people this may cost more if they sell a cottage or a secondary residence. But young people can't buy their primary residences yet.
And I wonder why that would be, Mr. Trudeau. Could it be because immigration has been off the charts? The housing situation is in a crisis. We don't have enough supply and demand. Essentially, what you're talking about is a quality of outcome, which isn't fair when there's no equality of effort. Now, equality of opportunity is fine. I'm okay with that. But we have individuals here who have taken the time to invest their money, save up, try to get a first house, a second house, cottage, other properties. Or we have doctors who have went to school, done years and years of studying, getting into a high-paying position job. And now because they put in the effort, you want to start taking away from them to give to other people who haven't put in that same sort of effort. And I understand in today's economy, it is hard to save whenever you can. but the goal is not to take from those people and give to others. It's to fix your broken system, especially in a time where we have very low doctors, nurses, people leaving the profession because of burnout. And now, on top of this, you're going to tax them even more. Now, you're going to have them leaving the profession, as Kathleen Ross is about to explain here.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you're hearing from those physicians? I'm imagining particularly toward the end of their career versus the beginning, where they can make different investment decisions based on the new rules. There, if you have saved for your retirement in that way and you're nearing retirement, my guess is their options are fairly limited.
The options are fairly limited to try and recoup what we would be losing in these capital gains losses. But I've spoken to a number of physicians today. I'm at a conference on quality improvement where physicians largely off the side of their desk are working hard to innovate and streamline and improve Canadian healthcare. And then being faced with this on top of our already morally defeated and beleaguered physician workforce coming out of the pandemic. This is really, it feels a little bit like a beatdown, I guess. We're really quite upset about this process. If you were to bring in a new physician to practice that wasn't incorporated or that was choosing to incorporate to run their business, there's going to be different implications, of course. But those that are mid-career or later in career that have actually followed the instructions to invest and save inside of your corporation, this has got a significant impact. And I've been speaking to physicians all day saying, well, there's really not much incentive for me to continue to work in the way that I'm working. Maybe I'm going to close down my corporation. Maybe I'm going to close down my medical practice altogether and go and do something else. And I've been shocked to hear that by so many of my colleagues, that there are lots of options. Physicians are well-educated, intelligent people, and we can go and do something else.
Now, call me crazy, but I don't think that's the path we want our medical professionals going down. We don't want them to leave the profession. We want them to stay, especially since our current healthcare system is in the gutter. Articles like this came out a few months ago. In December, Ontario patients waited in ERs for an average of nearly 22 hours before being admitted to the hospital. Does that seem normal? Does that seem okay? And all this government has been doing is trying to push incentives to have more nurses and doctors, especially in rural areas. They're giving them huge discounts on nursing programs, yet then they're going to come back and then start taxing the doctors even more. But then Trudeau wants to talk about intergenerational fairness, yet shit on the people who have worked hard to try to get whatever it may be, a cottage, a nest egg, another property, to save it for retirement, family, whatever the case may be, and then say that they're the ones who have to pay more.
That's why we're moving forward with initiatives that are focused on making the system work better for young people. Because the promise of this country has always been that every generation could succeed even better by building on the hard work of previous generations. But young people today don't have, no matter how hard they work, the same opportunities that their parents and their grandparents and previous generations could take for granted as just coming in this country. That's why we're doing something bold to change the math for young people. It means investing massively in new supply of housing, which, yes, building more affordable homes, building more affordable rental buildings. But also doing things like saying, if a young person is spending $2,000 a month on rent, the fact that they pay it on time every month, that should count towards building a credit score so they can eventually go to the bank and say, look, I'm a reliable payer of my bills. You can give me a mortgage, and a better mortgage than you'd otherwise be able to give me. These are the kinds of things that changes the system. And I understand there are those who've been very, very successful off the way the system used to be, who don't want to see the system changed. But this is about intergenerational fairness. It's also about making sure our economy succeeds into the future. Young people right now make up the largest part of our workforce, and if they don't see paths to success, it's the entire economy that suffers. So we're going to stay focused on building a fair economy for every generation.
And you know what? That sounds like a lovely idea, but taxing people who've already worked hard to get out of this rat race isn't the way to go about it. making it more affordable for these younger individuals is the fact that rent is $2,000, almost as much as mortgages that people are paying on a house just for an apartment to rent, is mind-blowing. As I've mentioned before, 8-9 years ago when I had my apartment, it was less than 1,000. And yeah, every year it increased, but only by 2%. It was like a $20 to $25 increase on my rent. Now, as I said, it's already doubled that. It's almost $2,000 for that old apartment that I used to have. I would never spend that much money on there. But this guy's so out of touch, even when he gets questioned on this whole aspect of maybe giving doctors a carve out or an exemption, this is what he has to say.
The Canadian Medical Association says the proposed changes to the capital gains taxation will affect doctors' retirement savings, and in turn it could affect recruitment and retention of physicians. Are you willing to make changes or exceptions for doctors?
Someone making capital gains has to make more than $250,000 in capital gain profits to start to see the new changes of inclusion from 50% of capital gains to 2/3 of capital gains being included in their tax rates. We just don't think it's right that a student or an electrician or a teacher be paying taxes on 100% of their income, while others have the opportunities to use accountants and pay taxes on only 50% of that income. This is about fairness. This is about the fact that in order for people to succeed across this economy at all generations, we need young people to succeed. We need young people to be able to buy homes in the coming years. We need young people to be confident of the future that's going to have opportunities for them to build a family and build a future the way they want to. So yes, we are asking the most successful in this country to do a little bit more to make sure that everyone can see themselves in the success of this country. And that's something that it bewilders me a little bit that the Conservative Party is standing against.
No, what's bewildering is that after everything you just said, you're still trying to say we are simply asking that they pay more, when that's not the case. You will be making them pay more once this budget gets through. And even with you trying to paint this as fairness, according to the polls, 50% pretty much don't agree with this budget whatsoever.
The Liberals did not win a lot of voters with their latest budget. The latest Leger survey shows that half of respondents said they had a negative view of the federal budget, which was presented by the finance minister, Chrystia Freeland, last Tuesday. Only 21% had a positive opinion, while nearly 1/3 said they didn't know or preferred not to answer.
And if looking at these numbers, which is solely based on the budget itself that you've presented, doesn't discourage you from fixing these poor policies, you really got to stop and think about what you're doing. Process what is beneficial for the Canadian people and not just what you want and your little puppet masters want, right? But again, all of this is just my opinion. Love to hear from you guys. Please let me know in the comment section below what you think about this whole situation. As always, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks so much.